I do not want to make this dress. To be clear, I don't want to make this dress because I dislike any aspect of it. I like the fabric, I like the pattern. I've had this tucked away in my to-make stack for quite some time. I don't want to make this dress because it's hard or too challenging. I don't want to make this dress because of the reason I am going to make this dress. I am making this dress for a memorial service for a very dear friend of mine, whose life was ended in a random act of violence. Now the culprit has already been caught and is behind bars, so I don't want to focus on the violent aspect of this. I want to focus on how I have used this dress and the making of it to begin to process my grief. I say begin because grief is a journey, and a long one at that. I have been through many phases at this point: denial, anger, deep sadness, and profound pain at the loss of a life that I cherished. You see, my friend wasn't your, quote, average friend. They were exceptional. I met them on a show that was very challenging, and they rose to meet every challenge with grace. They cared about safety as much as I did, and they used their voice as an expert in their field to champion not only for safety, but the needs of others that were not in the room. They were gracious, kind, and funny, always down for an adventure, both above and below the water. They were the kind of person who gathered people to them and cared about them deeply. Even once the contract was completed, we stayed in touch, and were constantly sending each other silly reels. The Roberta the Goose series from Gwenna was a favorite back and forth. They even blamed me, in a lighthearted way, for the fact that their feed was now occasionally dabbled with sewing content that wasn't mine. And because of the job they held, they traveled to Florida often, so we were able to occasionally squeak in a breakfast before a flight at my favorite breakfast spot. They were the kind of friend that showed up, even if it wasn't in person, then by a text or by a DM, and no message went unanswered. Sometimes they took time to reply, but they would always respond, except for once. They were asking me where they could find a, quote, fun bow tie by the next Tuesday at noon. And so while my brain was racking with all the possibilities to acquire one here in Orlando, I realized the easiest answer. It was me. I could make them the, quote, fun bow tie. So I asked them in my final message, define fun. I never got that answer. Death and his scissors were too quick to cut. So instead, I looked into myself, to what I thought fun would be for my friend. And I had an idea. I was going to take some of the scraps from my extensive scrap pile from the Giant Estate sale, and I was going to make that for them. Problem was, I racked my brain for just shy of a month before I could find the right fabric. Then the night before I was supposed to leave to go to the memorial, it hit me. I had this scrap of blue, teal, navy that sort of looked like fish scales or really abstract waves, and my friend had a deep love for the ocean. That was it. That was the piece I was going to use. So once I had finished my dress, I had to do one more thing. I had to make the bow tie. And so I did. But I didn't record it. That sewing was just for me. Me and my friend. So while every other seam and stitch was for me to keep moving forward, to keep going, this part was for them. And in the end, it all came together. My dress was a bit more challenging than I expected, but it was worth it. And the bow tie. I got to give the bow tie to their mother. And once I had regaled her with the story of why on heaven's name she was being handed a bow tie, she then directed me to his cousins, and we spent 20 minutes trying to figure out how to tie a bow tie, because while I can make them, I do not, in fact, know how to tie them. And once that was done, I spent the evening telling stories and listening to stories about my friend, who was so loved. The theater that the memorial was held in was packed. And while I had tried to work out the bow tie mystery, it all came full circle while I was there. I had been told that there was a co-worker that always wore bow ties on Tuesday. But there was no way to be sure that that was why my friend had asked me for the bow tie. However, right before I was going to leave, I saw their mother one more time. And she informed me that that co-worker was the reason that they had asked for the bow tie. And so their mother gave the co-worker the bow tie as a final gift. So now, my friend will live on through the stitches I made in that bow tie with the co-worker who wears them on Tuesdays. And I'll leave you with this. My friend was a caring person. So go out today and do a random act of kindness for someone. Because that is what they would have wanted.